The camera adored him. Every frame, every angle, perfection. In the 1,960 seconds, when London was swinging and beauty was a form of rebellion, Terence Stamp became the face that defined an era. Those ice-blue eyes, that sculpted silence, he didn't just act, he hypnotized. Directors called him a miracle of stillness. Magazines called him the most beautiful man in British cinema. And yet, at the height of it all, he vanished. No scandal, no farewell. Just gone, leaving behind a world that worshipped his reflection but never truly knew the man. Rumors whispered of heartbreak, of spiritual hunger, of a star who walked away from fame to find himself in the dust of another continent. The golden boy of The Collector and Superman 2 disappeared into the East, trading scripts for silence, applause for prayer. What happened to Terence Stamp? And what truth hides behind a face too perfect for this world? London, 1965. The air was electric. Beatles on the radio, miniskirts in the streets, a new rebellion rising from art and youth. And in the center of it all stood Terence Stamp, tall, ethereal, and almost unreal. He wasn't just another actor. He was the embodiment of British cool. Born in Stepney, East London, he came from nothing, the son of a tugboat man, yet he ascended to the pantheon of cinema with an ease that felt destined. His breakthrough in Billy Budd earned him an Academy Award nomination before he turned 25. Then came The Collector, where his haunting calm as the quiet captor turned him into both icon and enigma. Directors like Fellini and Pasolini wanted him. Women adored him. Men envied him. Even Hollywood, in all its glittering noise, couldn't ignore that still, dangerous beauty. But beauty, as the 1,960 seconds taught the world, comes with its own curse. Fame grew louder, relationships frayed, and the man once hailed as the face of a generation began to look past the mirror toward something no one around him understood. He had everything an actor could want, and yet what he longed for was everything fame could never give. Before the elegance, before the myth, there was Stepney. Narrow London streets, coal smoke in the air, and a boy who dreamed of escape. Terence Henry Stamp was born in 1938, the son of a tugboat stoker who spent more time on the Thames than at home. His mother, gentle but firm, filled the small flat with stories of better lives. Young Terence believed her. He wasn't the loud one in school, he was the observer, watching faces, studying silences. When other boys wanted to be footballers or soldiers, he wanted to be someone else entirely. The cinema was his sanctuary, its flickering light, a promise. He later said that the first time he saw Gary Cooper on screen, he knew what he wanted. Not fame, but presence. After national service, he drifted through small jobs, then joined the Webber Douglas Academy of Dramatic Art. He was poor, charming, and unforgettable. His deep blue eyes and quiet confidence caught the attention of Peter Ustinov, who cast him in Billy Budd, 1962. Overnight, he became the industry's new obsession, nominated for an Oscar, hailed as a prodigy. But more than talent, it was his aura that hypnotized people. He could make silence feel like dialogue. Critics called him a face carved from marble, yet trembling with emotion. From the docks of East London to the red carpets of Cannes, Terence Stamp's rise was not just meteoric, it was poetic. And in every close-up, there was something unreachable, something just out of frame. The world saw beauty, but perhaps he already saw the danger in it. By the mid-1960 seconds, Terence Stamp was no longer just an actor, he was a phenomenon. Every magazine wanted his face, every director wanted his stillness. He became the cinematic reflection of London's transformation, young, daring, effortlessly modern. But behind that beauty, the noise was growing louder. Fame, once a friend, began to feel like a room without doors. His relationship with supermodel Jean Shrimpton made them the golden couple of Britain's cultural revolution, the actor and the muse, living symbols of the decade's freedom. Yet freedom has a price. The world watched them fall in love and then slowly fall apart. Shrimpton, the fashion world's fragile rebel, grew distant. Stamp, who seemed carved from ice, began to fracture beneath the surface. "I wanted something real," he once said. "But everything around me was an image, even me." Ezen. Directors adored his looks but feared his detachment. Some called him emotionally remote, others too self-contained. What they didn't see was that fame had turned him inward. Every photo shoot, Every red carpet was another mirror, and he was tired of reflections. He began reading philosophy, studying mysticism, spending hours alone in his flat, searching for quiet. The man who once owned the screen started to disappear from it. London was still swinging, the lights still flashing, but Terence Stamp was already turning toward the dark, not to hide, but to find something purer than applause. Fame gave him everything, but peace demanded that he walk away. It began quietly, almost imperceptibly, a man stepping out of his own story. After The Mind of Mr. Soames and Blue, Terence Stamp's career seemed poised for an even greater ascent. Hollywood wanted him. Europe adored him. But he wanted none of it. At the moment when others would have grasped tighter, he simply let go. He left the cameras, the studios, and even London itself. There was no scandal, no angry statement, just absence. "I gave it all up," he later said. And he meant it. He went east to India, drawn not by work, but by silence. For a decade defined by fame and excess, his withdrawal felt like rebellion of the soul. While others chased immortality through fame, he sought it through nothingness. He lived in monasteries, studied under spiritual teachers, and traveled with no entourage, no contracts, no plan. For a time, he had no home, no agent, and no sense of returning. The man once described as a marble god now walked barefoot through dust and rain, trying to unlearn everything success had taught him. Those who knew him said he seemed serene, and yet there was loneliness in that serenity. Directors stopped calling. His name slipped quietly from conversation. To some, it was madness. To others, a kind of enlightenment. For Stamp himself, it was survival. "I was trying to find out who I was," he wrote, "and I couldn't hear that voice beneath the applause." In the silence he sought, he finally met himself. But the world he left behind would never quite understand the man who walked away from its applause. Years passed before anyone in Hollywood knew where he was. When he finally returned, he wasn't the golden boy of The Collector anymore. He was something quieter, wiser, almost spectral. The studios that once begged for him had moved on, and the spotlight had found new faces. But Terence Stamp reappeared as if from another dimension, carrying with him the stillness of the places he'd wandered. His comeback came unexpectedly, in a cape of power and menace, General Zod in Superman 2, 1980. It was the perfect paradox. The man who fled fame returning as a symbol of control and command. Behind his sharp voice and cold authority, though, there was something almost meditative, as if even in villainy he was still searching for peace. Audiences were mesmerized. Critics called it a return of myth. Yet once the cameras stopped, he retreated again, no entourage, no headlines, just solitude. Throughout the following decades, he worked selectively, appearing in The Limey, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and Wall Street. But the fire that once sought admiration now burned differently. His autobiography, written later in life, spoke of silence, heartbreak, and the long road to inner balance. He admitted that, for all his beauty and fame, he had known a loneliness that was almost sacred. There was no dramatic ending to his story, no scandal, no collapse. Just the image of a man who chose distance over decadence, reflection over noise. In an age where everyone was desperate to be seen, Terence Stamp became the rare soul who disappeared not to be forgotten, but to be free. Time has a way of softening what once burned too bright. Today, when people speak of Terence Stamp, they speak of grace, not the glittering kind of youth, but the kind that lingers in memory. He became a bridge between two worlds, the glamour of 1,960 seconds British cinema and the spiritual quiet of a man who refused to be consumed by it. You can still see him, preserved in celluloid, the haunting calm of The Collector, the command of Superman 2, the aching reflection in The Limey. Every performance feels like a conversation between light and silence. He never needed to raise his voice. He simply existed, and the room changed. Younger actors cite him as a mystery worth studying. Directors mention his discipline, his refusal to be ordinary. Fans remember the way he could make stillness feel alive. And though he lives away from the chaos of fame, his image remains. That perfect face, half in shadow, half in light, the eternal contradiction. In interviews now, his words are softer, tinged with humility. "You learn," he once said, "that what you run from is often what you are meant to understand." Terence Stamp's legacy is not just beauty or fame, it's the courage to vanish. to step outside the applause and listen to what remains when the world goes quiet. Fame loved him for his beauty. The world remembered him for his silence. Between those two lights, brilliance and withdrawal, Terence Stamp built a life that few could understand, and fewer could follow. His story is not one of tragedy, but of choice. In walking away, he revealed what fame often hides, that behind every shining image, there is a soul trying to breathe. He became proof that disappearance can be an act of creation, a man who left to reclaim what the camera had taken. His was not a fall from grace, but a return to something purer, older, truer. In the stillness he sought, he found the part of himself that no lens could capture. Fame gave him reflection. Shadow gave him meaning. And somewhere between them, Terence Stamp still exists, the face that refused to fade, not because it was perfect, but because it finally learned to rest. Which version of him do you remember, the young man who mesmerized the world, or the wanderer who walked away from it? Every close-up of Terence Stamp still feels like a question about fame, identity, and the cost of being seen. If his journey moved you, share your thoughts below. What would you have told him if you had the chance? And don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories from the other side of the spotlight.